I've been shooting with the Canon R6 II as my main camera, my weapon of choice, my ride or die, for the last 2 years now, and I think it's finally time to tell you what I actually think of this thing. Good cameras are everywhere these days, and as great as that is, it makes choosing your first good camera, which I think is kind of an oxymoron because I don't think there are any bad cameras, it makes that a rather difficult and challenging task. And while I am but another drop in the ocean of YouTube camera reviews, I hope that this video can really help you to decide whether or not the R6 Mark II is actually for you. Let's get into it. So let's talk about what I love about this camera. First up, I love the handling. I love the grip. I love the button placement. I love how easy this thing is to use. Everything is exactly where you think it should be. Nothing is hard to reach. I love being able to customize all the buttons and set them to what I would like them to be. It feels good in the hand. It's a joy to use. I love the flip out LCD screen. The touch screens on Canon cameras are always fantastic. They feel just like the iPhone, which I love. The EVF is fantastic. It's big, it's bright, it's sharp. It's probably my favorite EVF that I've ever used, and all of these things together just make this camera a absolute joy. Everything feels very, very streamlined, and it makes the process of using this camera, the experience of using this camera, very smooth and easy. Up next is image quality, and man, does this camera have that in spades. Now, this is a 24 megapixel sensor. I have found that from my own personal use, once you get over 30 megapixels, you kind of start to run into the whole diminishing returns thing, and the 24 megapixels that I get out of this thing has been more than enough for everything that I've needed. I've made loads of prints with this camera and have never had any image quality issues. I don't crop super heavy, so I don't need ridiculous amounts of resolution to be able to crop super hard. I usually just get my framing as close to what I want as possible, and I haven't really noticed any resolution issues, and so the 24 megapixel sensor has been just fine for me. The dynamic range on this thing is really good as well. It's measured at about 14 stops, and I, again, haven't had any issues in editing with pulling down highlights, bringing up shadows. It's really been a fantastic workhorse for everything that I've needed it to do. This thing has just eaten all of it in every situation that I've thrown at it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and it's really been a joy to use. I love the image quality that comes out of this thing for photos, and for video it's great as well. This does oversampled 4K, so it's 4K oversampled from the full 6K sensor, and the video just looks gorgeous. I'm a huge fan of the video that comes out of this thing. It's great. An absolute joy to use on both the photo and video ends of the spectrum. Let's talk features. This thing is jam-packed full of features, and I have quite a few favorites. First up, crop mode. This is a full-frame sensor, but because of the resolution that's in this thing, it allows you to crop into an APS-C sized format, which has been excellent with longer lenses like my 70-200 when I'm at 200 millimeters and I just need just a little bit more reach. It's been great to be able to crop down and get a little extra reach out of my lenses, and I use that surprisingly often. I also love being able to dual record to both cards. I can either record as a straight backup, or I can record RAW to one card and JPEG to the other. Focus peaking. Focus peaking is awesome. I like to shoot manual focus quite a bit, actually, and so being able to have very fine control over the focus peaking, you can pick the strengths, you can pick the color, and being able to have that tool and something that you can assign to a button to quickly turn on and off is amazing. I use it a lot, especially when I'm shooting with vintage lenses that are only manual focus. It's helped quite a bit, and I love having that as a feature. We've got IBIS. The IBIS in this camera is really, really something. I can hand hold exposures of up to 2 to 3 seconds and still get sharp images that don't have camera shake in them, and that's really been something that's quite useful. Actually, I do quite a bit of like slow shutter photography, and sometimes I don't always have a tripod with me. Sometimes I literally just have to like set the camera on something and hold it as steady as I can, and being able to do that with the in-body stabilization being as good as it is really, really nice. Autofocus. Autofocus is also really, really nice. I probably shoot about 50% of my work manual focus and 50% of my work in autofocus, but the autofocus seems like it's bang on every single time. I've hardly ever had it miss. It's lightning fast. It knows exactly what it is you're trying to shoot. You can tell it exactly what you're trying to shoot, whether it's people or animals or something like that. But most of the time I just leave it in auto, and the camera figures out what my subject is with like 99.9% accuracy in the last 2 years that I've been using it. And so the autofocus is honestly fantastic. Smart enough to where I don't ever really have to think about what the autofocus is doing. I just shoot whatever my subject is, and the autofocus just gets out of my way and does its thing. It's great. Another thing that I really like, this thing is built like a tank. It's rugged, it's solid, it's fully weather sealed, which is very useful up here in the Pacific Northwest where it rains and is wet a lot. And so being able to like toss on my weather sealed lenses and not really have to worry about shooting with this thing out in the rain or on waterfalls or things like that has been very, very useful. And it's great to just have that peace of mind to be able to take my camera out into the elements and capture the things that I want to capture without worrying about whether or not my camera is going to survive the trip, because I know it will. Stuff you won't use because I never did, and you probably won't either. It's no secret that this camera is packed full, and I mean chock full, of features, but I haven't used all of them, and I don't think you will either. Here's the stuff I never used. High frame rate electronic shutter. This camera will shoot up to 40 frames per second in electronic shutter mode. Never used it. It'll shoot high frame rate in mechanical shutter as well, but I think that's only up to about 15 frames per second, and I think I only used that twice. This camera is also capable of shooting 12-bit RAW video externally. I also never used that, simply because the bit rates are so darn high that the file sizes are absolutely unmanageably massive. This camera also has false color built in. Handy, but I've never used it. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. What do I not like about this camera? Well, first is the fact that the in-body image stabilization is not necessarily independent from the lens if you're using a stabilized lens. If I turn off stabilization, like on the lens, it turns off stabilization in the body. It would be nice to be able to pick which one you had instead of getting either both or nothing. And that's something that is kind of frustrating to me. Sometimes I would like to turn off stabilization in the lens and still have IBIS in the body, and that's just not an option, which is something that is frustrating fairly often. This next thing is somewhat video-centric. You only have IPB recording modes in this camera. You do not have all-eye recording, which is kind of frustrating because all-eye is higher quality and a higher bit rate than IPB is. On the photo end of things with a sensor, this is, again, like I said at the beginning, this is a 24 megapixel sensor. I wish it had just a little bit more resolution. 30 megapixels would be perfect. It would be nice to have just a little bit more resolution. I do crop my images. I don't crop super heavy. Usually my cropping is limited to just aspect ratio changes, but occasionally I do have to crop harder, and so it would be nice to have 30 megapixels instead of 24. I feel like 30 is kind of the sweet spot, at least for me. So it would be nice if the sensor had just a little bit more resolution. The last thing that really bugs me is this camera has a micro HDMI port. Why, Canon? All your competitors are putting full-size HDMIs. Why aren't you? I don't like micro HDMI. It's way too easy to break. And so if you are someone who is going to be shooting video using external recorders, get yourself a bracket that goes onto your cage that keeps your cable, your HDMI cable, secure, because these micro HDMI ports are way too easy to break, and then you'll have to send it into Canon. So what do I really think about the Canon R6 Mark II? Well, the features that I use, the way that I like to use them, I love this camera. To the point where when this breaks, I'll probably just go out and buy another R6 Mark II. This camera gets out of my way in a way that no other mirrorless camera ever has, and that's fantastic. If you are at all like me in your photographic creative process, then this camera is one of the best cameras that I have ever used, and I think it might be a good fit for you. But ultimately, I would encourage you to think of your needs and think of your budget, and take that comboed with everything I've laid out here, and use that to make an educated decision for yourself as to whether or not this camera is actually for you. If you have used the R6 Mark II, I'd love to hear about your experience in the comments, what you like, what you don't like, things like that. And if you prefer any other camera over this, I would love to understand why. So by all means, let me know down below in the comments. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for future uploads. That's it from me for now, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.